Elite Expert Insider, the podcast that educates, inspires, and motivates you to take your business and life to the next level. We would like to thank Audible for supporting Elite Expert Insider. Please go to the link bit.ly/Elite Audible. That's bit.ly/Elite Audible and get a free 30-day trial to show your support. Thank you, Audible. Now to Elite Expert Insider for conversations with industry leaders.
I'm Melanie Johnson. Welcome to our podcast today. We have a great show. I'm here with my co-host, Jen Foster.
Hello.
And there she is. And we have a great interview. We have Gary Acevedo with us today. He is an author, and he specializes in self-empowerment and leadership and to get you over those hurdles. He's worked with Olympic athletes to help them perform better, to see results and get a medal. So he's going to give us some really great strategies for your life, for your business, and how to overcome those hurdles and be in that great space to achieve all your goals. So Gary, we are so happy to have you here today. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm really glad to be here.
Terrific. Well, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in this industry.
Yeah. When I was a freshman in college, I was really bright and talented, but I was so emotionally messed up that I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. And I was basically what you'd call the king of wimps. I was so wimpy that you could ask me for anything, you know, my house, my car. I couldn't say no to anything, right? And so I happened to move into a therapeutic community run by an incredible man, a guy named Mel Wasserman, who was literally in the field of psychology and personal development. He was 2 generations ahead of his time. Like, he was doing stuff with us that would later on be identified as NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming, that made Tony Robbins famous. But he was doing that like in the early 70s. And a lot of other technologies that are now recognized as cutting-edge technologies, he was doing with us way back then. So when I came out of CEDU and I was learning how to facilitate workshops, I was gifted and talented. I had learned in CEDU how to be a great facilitator and going through my own healing. But when I came out of CEDU, I didn't really understand why I was good at what I do. And then over the last 40-plus years, now when I say that, people are supposed to go, he doesn't look that old. But I actually started when I was a teenager. So over the last 40 years, I've come to learn that the power of vibration and energy. And for example, when I coach master facilitators, speakers, politicians, presenters, I teach them that the greatest tool that any presenter has at their disposal, whether it's a 3rd grade teacher or a Fortune 500 CEO, is called the space of a room. That invisible emotional atmosphere that gets people leaning forward in their chairs, laughing at the jokes, having ahas and discoveries and insights. And so I've learned over 100 different techniques that are all subconscious, because I found out that the space of a room actually is synonymous with what I call subconscious safety. So if
tell us in detail. And you're saying the safety of a room, is it a room with people in it, or it can be a room that's empty?
An audience.
An audience, okay.
Audience.
So
right. In other words, if you sit at the back of any workshop, of any room, and you watch the audience, you can actually, at the back of the room, you can actually gauge whether an audience is at 20 or 30, or if the space goes up, oh, now it's at 50. You can do that. I've seen CEOs of Fortune 500 companies literally put a room of presidents to sleep. I mean, literally people were snoring, right? But if you're in a really great workshop, you'll notice that people are laughing and having ahas, and basically when I do the retreat I do called The Awakening, that is what I consider the pinnacle of healing and empowerment because of what I've learned about the space of a room and how to inject the vibration and the energy of safety into a room.
I have to interject, and this is an observation from, we've got the elections going on, and you're saying they put presidents to sleep. And I hate to say this, but when Hillary was giving her acceptance speech, they had clips of Bill nodding off and sleeping during her acceptance speech. So I don't know what that says, but obviously didn't come to you for advice before she gave that. But she put her own husband and president to sleep.
Yeah, it's really interesting how many politicians I've gotten to work with where they really were great people and had a good message, but they didn't know much about presentations and how to jazz an audience, And a lot of the professionals that I work with, their income depends on their ability to enroll their audience into something, a product or a service. And I can take pretty much any presenter and increase their income usually pretty significantly by teaching them some of these tools so that the audience gets really engaged and excited and enrolled in whatever it is that they're trying to present.
Right. So you were talking about subconscious safety. So how do you accomplish that? How do you ignite that? What is that?
Well, you're going to speak. Well, how do you ignite that safety in a room? Can you do it like immediately, like within the first 30 seconds to set the tone?
Actually, in the Awakening, the retreat that I do a very special process, and I can't ruin the surprise, but basically within the first 10 minutes, the room goes through the roof. They are so high after the first 10 minutes because of our secret weapon. Now, the secret weapon, or what you guys call a superpower, is that I learned how to focus on what's right with people. Now, when I started in the early 70s, everybody in my field was doing what's called encounter groups, confrontational type therapy, and it was very in your face, take responsibility for your life, And so I was raised in that kind of environment, and then one day I was at a place with the world's greatest therapists, like the guys who'd studied under the giants, and like my therapist had taken John Lennon through primal therapy, and and I had a revelation where this woman was having a really hard time talking about what she thought was her big hang-up. I think it was being overly critical. And she saw the damage it had done to her children. And all of a sudden, I had a revelation where I saw her body like a ball of light, and what she thought was her big hang-up was actually, in reality, a great gift, strength, and talent that she had as a child. But when the world, parents and children at school, slapped that down, that energy has to go in the opposite direction as what we call a hang-up. So in that moment, I actually saw that the perfection of human beings. I saw that human beings don't have hang-ups. What they have is great gifts, strengths, and talents that get slapped down, and then it goes in the opposite direction as what we call shortcomings or weaknesses and hang-ups. So in the book I wrote last year called Ignite the Gift You Are, the 7 master keys to ignite your passion, your power, and your profits, I put all of that in the book about what is the great gift and strength behind being overweight, behind anxiety, behind depression, behind, a dozen different shortcomings that are very popular, and what is the great gift, strength, and talent. Because what I found out at the retreats that I do is that when you give someone subconscious safety and the permission to express the strength that hang-up really is, as soon as they begin to really express that particular gift or strength or talent, the hang-up literally disappears. Like with being overweight as an example, in one of my classes I remember I had about a third of the group, and their goal wasn't even to lose weight, but I had a third of the group lose anywhere between 25 and 90 pounds.
Wow.
And they weren't trying to lose the weight. It was just that they were getting better at expressing the gift that was behind that.
I think what you're saying, too, is you're having these people who feel like they have this shortcoming or something, wrong
Right.
with them, like a hang-up, and you're turning it into, well, what's good about that, or what's the beauty in this?
Right.
And the way that you did that, your book sounds awesome. We'll put it on our website for people to read, but I think that's great to look at what's the beauty in this. What is their strength? What is their...
Yes. My secret weapon, my superpower, if you will, is basically unconditional love and light. When people get filled up with so much love and light, like at the awakening, they get literally blissed out of their minds. We play a game called the 7 Levels of Awe, because there's like 7 different times during the retreat when they get so blissed, so touched, moved, lifted, inspired, that they literally look like deer in the headlights. They like the end of a good Steven Spielberg movie where they can't really talk. You know what I mean? And because of that, the game called Personal Growth, or Accelerating My Blessings, it absolutely transforms, because when they come to my workshops, most people subconsciously feel like, maybe if I do this, I'll be okay. Maybe if I grow in this way, I'll be okay. Maybe if I shift this bad habit or this thing, I'll be okay. And what happens is that the game literally transforms from maybe if I do this, I'll be okay, to, wow, I really am okay. Now, if I'm really okay, well, how good can I stand it? See?
There's that transition.
So all of a sudden, looking at my shortcomings and weaknesses doesn't look like such a big deal.
Right.
Because their gifts and talents overcome that. How do you get them to make that shift, though, mentally? Like, you can tell someone who's maybe they're down on themselves, like, oh, I'm overweight, I don't feel like I'm really good, I don't feel like I'm productive, or maybe they're at a job or a sport and they just think, there's too much pressure, I just don't feel like I'm good enough, worthy enough. How do you shift those thoughts? Because you may tell them you are good enough, you do have these gifts, you do have those talents, but how do you make that behavioral switch and get it into their nervous system that they don't believe those old things anymore, and they really, at the retreat, they start to learn that they can believe about their gifts and talents? What is the key to make them really believe and get it in their nervous system?
Yeah, you said a couple of things that, like you said, how do you mentally get them to do that? And the key is that you don't do it up here. You don't do it by just studying and intellectually examining things. That's the booby prize when it comes to personal development. You have to create deeply moving, profound experiences. You have to get them to feel safe enough to go from here to here. And what I found out, because I've been around the world, and I've basically immersed myself in over 30 different cutting-edge technologies in personal development, like primal therapy and Gestalt therapy and co-counseling and Native American, everything you can imagine, hypnosis. And what I've learned from all of them is that unless somebody has a deeply moving, profound experience that goes not to their conscious mind, but to their subconscious, and you even said physiology, into their nervous system. If it doesn't go into their physiology and their nervous system, it really isn't much good. It will be a short-lived experience, and they'll find themselves not being able to do it in daily life. So the key is not
get it into their physiology. What do you do? Like, I'm sure you do this at the retreat. Give us examples of how you get it from hearing it into their physiology.
Well, like for example, in neuro-linguistic programming in NLP, they do a thing called reprogramming a phobia. And I remember in the early days, Tony Robbins would go on the radio and say, I can reprogram a phobia in less than an hour. And psychologists would call up and say, this man is a fraud. I've been working with my clients for 5 years and they're not through their phobias yet, And Tony would say, well, invite him to come on stage, and either I'm a fraud and you'll expose me, or you'll learn a new technique, right? Mm-hmm. So I said, what's your client's phobia? and they'd say snakes. So Tony would literally go out, have his people rent a snake, and they'd bring it on stage, and the guy would freak out, and then they take it off stage, and Tony would basically work with his pictures and his thoughts and his feelings, and within 45 minutes to an hour, the guy could literally have the snake crawling all over him, and he could have the snake crawling on him, and it would work. He would have no more phobia about snakes.
Right.
Well, I have a lot of NLP masters in my facilitator body, but for us, that's a fundamental version of what we do in what we call a breakthrough. Mm-hmm. We actually take that kind of a technique and we actually go deeper and deeper into the subconscious in a very deep way. So basically, imagine that somebody had a trauma that they don't even remember when they were young, 5 years old. And they don't know why they keep doing the same bad habit when it comes to, say, their finances, like their money. They keep struggling to keep their head above water, and they notice that they're stuck. Like for business people, after working with so many business people, I found out that they won't make the calls. Like they're okay promoting their friend, but when it comes to promoting themselves, it's really tough for them to get on the phone and say, would you do this thing? And so they don't know why they keep getting stuck or why they keep staying at the same level. But if they actually find a way to reprogram those things that are basically subconscious and they keep coming up and acting from that, then they can actually move out of their own way and accelerate their blessings.
So what is the result? When someone walks away from your retreat, what is the feeling that they have? What do you think they're getting?
Well, actually, the most common experience when they're done with the retreat is that they don't want to leave. Like they tell me, they say, we're not leaving, we're never leaving, like that last line in the Big Chill, the movie. Because it's like they've been in heaven on earth for, a week, and they got to go back to reality. And we actually do it in 2 phases now. We do June and we do August. And so that they get a chance to go back to reality, see what normal life is like, use their new skills, and then come back and get another jolt of energy. And when people come out of it, the common experience is that, like, for example, if I could take your love life, and you believe that you're growing in your life, and in 5 years from now, you're going to have certain blessings because you keep growing. Or in your money. And 5 years from now, you're going to get certain blessings because you believe you're growing. Well, in a workshop we do called the Spirit of the Awakened Warrior, that workshop is designed to actually accelerate the pace at which people grow. So if I could take the blessings you're going to get in 10 years from now, in your money, and I could shorten that time to, say, 2 or 3 years, or if I could take the blessings you're going to get in 5 years and shorten that to 1.5 years or 2 years, well, that would be interesting to most people. Like, yeah, I want to get those blessings sooner. Well, the key to that is how do you accelerate the pace at which you grow? And I found over the years that basically the key to that is, what it boils down to is transforming people's level of defensiveness. If you look really carefully, when people make mistakes, or they fall down, or they get egg on their face, or they kind of trip up, or they blow it in some way, we subconsciously get so down on ourselves that we spend a lot of time being self-critical instead of simply getting what the correction is, getting back in the game, and going for it again. In other words, learning.
It's like that saying, fail forward fast.
Yes, exactly. So the workshop called Spirit of the Awakened Warrior, that's really what that's about. It's about learning how to fail forward fast. Because we found out that success is really not a question of how you respond when things are going well. Success is a function of how you respond to failure. So our whole interest in that course is to basically teach you how to embrace the negatives in life. And when people come out of it, it's interesting that they're always on fire. You know, they're really excited, they're really high, but we want to teach them by creating support for how they can actually now take those profound experiences and now anchor them, practice them in such a way that they become automatic behavior in their lives, that they become good habits in their lives.
So they're doing, and you know, that transcends into business. Like if you're launching a campaign or a sales effort and it doesn't work, and you're like, oh, you know, we didn't make any money on that, and then you're wallowing in that, oh, we did it wrong, instead of saying, all right, what did we do wrong? How can we fix it? How can we change it? And move what's better, and immediately take that action versus just, this stinks, we didn't make any money on it, now what now we're going to do, woe's me, and having those pity parties. So you're really trying to eliminate or give a small window of time for a pity party, and then you got to move on and fix it and make it better. Yes. And you're teaching those skills of how to do that. Absolutely.
Matter of fact, we actually, in my work, we actually give them about 8 very powerful techniques for how to make that pity party absolutely next to no time at all. Like, for example, we teach them how to move the negative emotions out of their space, out of their physiology, so that they don't have to spend the next 6 months to a year going through all that negativity, and they can just get back on track and keep going forward.
Okay,
teach them tools like that.
Top 1 to 3 things, or top 5 things that move you from that space to the positive space to get out of that.
Well, one of the things we teach people is energy work, and I don't have time to go into all that because there's a lot of science that goes into energy work. We also teach them a tool called recreation, which is basically don't wants and do wants, and teaching them how to manage their consciousness in such a way that they take the don't want, they know what they don't want, and then they transform it into what they do want. So, for example, there's a tool we teach called How to Melt Your Favorite Jerk. You know, how to disarm verbal attackers, because, you know, you never know when your husband, your wife, your business partner, your teenager is going to just attack you viciously, go for the throat. And if you know this don't want, do want skill, you can actually turn that what looks like a verbal monster into a verbal teddy bear within literally a matter of minutes, okay? And like one of my favorite success stories is a guy who had invented a machine that saves premature babies' lives, okay? And his president had really upset one of the people from the a regulatory agency. So he got a nasty letter in the mail saying, on this day you're going to meet with 5 agents and we're going to decide whether your company even gets to exist, right? So he's nervous. I mean, he spent his whole life, all of his money, putting it into this machine that saves premature babies' lives. And his wife had just been through my relationships course called Unlimited Influence, and she learned this technique on how to melt your favorite jerk. And so they got into a fight one morning, and she melted him. And when she walked away, he goes, hey, whoa, 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 what did you just do to me? And she goes, well, I learned it in this course I did with Gary, you know. And so he calls me up and goes, hey, when's your next course? And I said, well, it's a few months away. He goes, I can't wait that long. Can I hire you? I said, sure, of course. So we spent a few hours going through it till he got pretty decent at it. And he goes into this room of, 5 agents loaded for bear. And he keeps doing this don't want, do want, and he's doing what we call feeding back the sweetheart message. In other words, he keeps getting them to recognize the positive intention behind their negative behavior. Mm-hmm. And by feeding them back the sweetheart message, he called me up when it was over. He says, I can't believe what happened. He says, you won't believe this, Gary. He says, within an hour, they were literally saying to me, look, Bert, the law is this, Now, the way you can get around the law is you can do this and this and this and this, right? I mean, they're literally teaching him how to get around their own laws, right?
Yeah.
Now, how would you guess it makes me feel to know that today, that machine, every year, is saving hundreds of premature babies' lives? And as a little karma, it just so happened that it saved my brother's baby's life.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a great story that is. What
Yeah,
a
that's
great
good
story that
karma.
is.
Yeah.
For everyone out there, I just want a really good learning tip, because you were saying, the don't want, do want, and that's something that happens to everybody pretty much on a daily basis, or, a regular basis, where they're meeting people that are giving them verbally, whether it's a sale they're trying to make, or,
Right.
between parents and children, or relationships. So give us a little more deeper information on how to do that.
How to do what?
The do want, don't want, the melt away technique.
Well, it would take me too long to go through the whole thing, but I'll give you the essence of it. If somebody's attacking me and saying, you're always late, and what I think that means is that you don't respect me and you don't care, and so I would say, let me see if I'm hearing you right, because I want to get this. You're saying that what you're not interested in is consistently waiting around because you're on time, but I'm late, and I'm imagining that how that feels to you is that you don't want to feel disrespected, you don't want to feel ignored, you don't want to feel like I don't care, like I don't care enough about you to even like try to make a change, right? Mm-hmm. So I stay in the don't want until I see something shift in them. You'll see it in their facial expression and all that. Then I switch it to the do want. And you have to remember that what I'm trying to do is I'm not just saying it back to them. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to use words like honor and respect and care, things that are really below the surface. So I'm saying, so what you want is you want me to care enough to really want to be on time, to be dedicated to trying to change this and to be on time. You want me to make you feel like you're really honored and like I really do respect you and like that. And so I'm not just feeding back the message, I'm actually telling them what is the sweetheart message that their negative behavior is trying to say. Like, they're being very critical, they're beating me up verbally because they're hurt, they're scared, and they want something that's really good and sweet and wonderful. So if I get them to recognize their sweetheart message, they will melt. And I want you to know, when you're skilled at this tool, they don't get to vote. Like, they may not feel like melting, they may not want to melt, but most people have had this experience where you're in the middle of a big fight and you really got the next thing you're gonna get them with, right? And all of a sudden your partner does something absolutely magnificent, like apologize. And they say, "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just got scared." And they apologize, and your automatic reaction, you're kind of disappointed and like, "Oh, I was really gonna get you too," and you melt, And I just want to say that this technique called recreation, don't want, do want, as an example, this tool, I'm just giving you one example, how to melt your favorite jerk, but that particular tool has 7 very profound applications, like how to disappear your own upsets, or how to be a coach and make good money as a life coach by using this don't want, do want to disappear other people's upsets. When you're a coach, you can literally take someone out of a big upset they have, and within a matter of minutes, using don't want, do want, teach them how to disappear that upset so that they actually now are taking a different path and being committed action.
Well, I imagine it would work even in sales where
Oh,
someone is
absolutely.
fearful or they're not buying your product, and you could say, well, they might even say, well, I'm hesitant. I'm not sure if I like everything about you, but I'm not sure about this segment. And then you say, well, I understand that you're probably feeling nervous about that. You're probably wondering if we can deliver, and so you're asking those kind of questions, right?
Absolutely. I do a course called Success Beyond Sales, which is a $1,500 course. And we have a DVD that's like 6.5 hours of that. And one of the tools is teaching them how to use this don't want, do want tool to eliminate their considerations. Now, we found out that in order to disappear their considerations, they have to have a direct experience of the value of your product or service.
Okay.
If they have a direct experience, what we call a clunk, it's like a ring and a bell. If they have that direct experience of your product or service, no consideration will stop them. If you don't want, do with them, they will literally solve their own problem. But until you get a direct experience of the value of your product or service, until you get them to have that, any consideration will stop them. And do want, don't want won't help you much. See, the key is getting them to have a direct experience of your product or service. And we use a special technique that we call the genie game, so that you can ask them certain questions in such a way that they will actually get so specific about what they want from your product or service that they go from their head down to their experience, and now you have a sale.
That's great. I love that. That is so helpful. I want to get it.
It's the emotional, it's the experience that you're selling. And a lot of times we look at it and think that it's just this is what you're getting, and these are the physical things you're getting, and that's why you should buy it. And no one will buy it if you do it that way.
Right.
This is the experience you're going to get, and this is the feelings and the emotions, and walk them through that, and then they're going to buy.
Absolutely.
Well, plus you have, we're running out of time here, so I want to get to you have something special to offer everyone who's listening and watching today. So tell us the gift that you want to give everybody today.
Yes. We have a course coming up called The Spirit of the Awakened Warrior, which is the one I talked about, where you can accelerate the pace at which you grow, okay? For the first 10 callers that call in, we're going to give them a certificate called, for that workshop, which is September 14th through the 18th, and we're going to give them that $1,200 workshop for half price. They're going to get that workshop for $595. And everyone who calls in today is going to get a certificate for a $500 course called Unlimited Influence, which is about the success in your relationships, all relationships, not just love life, but also business relationships, etc. And we're going to give them that $500 course for $100, okay? And if somebody's interested in the retreat that I do, we're going to give them a very, 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 very special offer for being part of your group.
Great. Well, thank you so much for offering all that. And tell us where they can call in.
Rise Leadership Group, it is 801-414-7020. That's the Rise Leadership Group number.
Okay, great. Well, we'll put that on the screen at the bottom, and people can call in and get those wonderful discounts. Thank you so much, Gary.
You betcha. Thank you for having me. I love being on your show.
Yeah, it was terrific. I got a lot of wonderful knowledge out of that. So please, if you liked our podcast, please subscribe and leave us a fabulous review. We've had wonderful content, great guest. So subscribe to us, leave us a review, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
For more information about us, go to EliteOnlinePublishing.com. To get your free book, The Accomplishment and Success Story Starter, simply text your name and email to 832-572-5285. That's 832-572-5285. We'd also like to thank Audible for supporting Elite Expert Insider. To get your free 30-day trial, please go to bit.ly/Elite Audible. That's bit.ly/Elite Audible and get your free 30-day trial to show your support. Thank you, Audible.